You look back at some of the older video games involving Mario. In fact, let's look as far back as the original Donkey Kong game, which came out back in the 80s. That game was one that pretty much, in some ways, put the platforming genre on the map, but it was a different kind of platformer. It was more of a top down, platformer opposed to everything else we saw in the Mario series, which was pretty much a side scrolling platformer. And this was pretty much the first game where Mario, or the first major game where Mario was considered to be the main protagonist. He had to rescue his girlfriend or ex girlfriend, Pauline, from Donkey Kong, who was the villain at the time. And basically Mario had to jump over barrels to and basically climb ladders to get to the top to try and rescue Pauline, just so Donkey Kong can take her and just go to another level. And looking at this, this is something that was pretty different. It's something you don't see nowadays in Mario games for the most part. But as basic as it was something that was very, entertaining at the time, and it was something that was challenging to a point where people, became addicted to it. Now, you look at the whole concept of DK being the villain for something as simple as kidnapping, Mario's girlfriend. That's something that Bowser ended up doing in every damn near every Super Mario game he's been in. And some people ask me whether or not DK was a better boss than Bowser. And quite frankly, I don't really see much of a difference. It's pretty much the same thing, but different, because I believe DK was mainly a villain in that one game, his first game. He may have been a villain in other games, I'm not sure, but I know DK was a villain in that game. And pretty much it was just that one thing, just tossing barrels and trying to rescue Pauline, opposed to Bowser, who would always kidnap Princess Peach and then have her in a castle. And sometimes you would have to go to multiple castles before rescuing Princess Peach after defeating Bowser. And as far as whether or not Donkey Kong was a better villain, I think he was a pretty good villain. But at the same time, the minute where Donkey Kong ended up being captured by Mario and his son Donkey Kong Jr. had to rescue him, his credibility as a villain was diminished at that point, because it just made him look like a wuss, and it made Mario look like, well, made Mario look even worse than Donkey Kong did when Mario was a villain in that game. And also, Donkey Kong was more like, from the 90s onward, for the most part, Donkey Kong was considered to be more of a heroic figure, and he ended up being the protagonist of his own video game series, and he ended up earning millions of dollars for Nintendo. So honestly, making Donkey Kong a hero was actually a pretty good move on Nintendo's part. And as far as what Donkey Kong is kind of viewed like, I'm not sure how other people view him, but I know I view him similar to kind of how Wario was viewed when he made his debut in Super Mario Land 2, Six Golden Coins for Game Boy in 92, where Wario started off as a villain and Mario had to, I guess, get his castle back from Wario, who somehow managed to take it over. And I guess after that game, Wario pretty much became an anti-hero, had his own video game series, and was successful, but not to the same extent as Donkey Kong was. And Donkey Kong is still a more popular, recognizable name than Wario is. And as far as Mario games in general are concerned, for the most part, the main series involves the never changing damsel in distress formula, where Mario has to constantly rescue Princess Peach. But the only difference is various games that came out after the original Mario game had different gimmicks or different themes, or what have you, but the formula has always remained the same. So to say that Mario or not Mario, to say that Donkey Kong was a better villain than Bowser and vice versa, it really doesn't make much of a difference because it's basically the same thing but different.